Vice Chancellor Sahib, fellow participants, ladies and gentlemen, I am thankful to Dr. Arvind, Vice Chancellor, Punjabi University Patiala, for this invitation to the program held in honor of the achievement of Sardar Pyara Singh Padam in various areas of academic interest. I shall be reading out my paper, therefore I shall not be able to raise my head frequently. Please forgive me. Once he came to my place to see me. We had a long talk on our interests. Before he left, he pointed to a bundle, saying, "This is for you." This bundle contained over a score of his books. Among these were the titles like Shri Guru Granth Prakash, Adi Granth Darshan, Dasam Granth Darshan, Sankhep Sikh Itihas, Guru Nanak Sagar, Gobind Sagar, Punjabi Maharaja, Guru Gobind Singh Ji Darbari Ratan, Punjabi Bara Mahe, Punjabi Vara, Punjabi Kisse, Sai Bulle Shah, and Prachin Sausaki. These titles do not cover all the areas of interest to Padam. Included in these books was the Zafarnama edited by him. It defies classification. It was a happy coincidence that my article on the Zafarnama, published in 1972, was revised and published in 2007. In this connection, I studied the Zafarnama edited by Padam rather closely. I discovered that he had edited the Zafarnama first in 1964, which was published by the Punjab government. Padam had accepted the traditional meaning of the couplets 58, 59, 60 and 61, which were taken to be addressed by Guru Gobind Singh to Aurangzeb, and they did not make much sense. Padam remained uneasy and discussed the matter with other scholars like Bhai Ranveer Singh, and they came to the conclusion that these couplets made a lot of sense if they were seen as addressed by Aurangzeb to Guru Gobind Singh. Not only the four couplets, but the whole Zafarnama makes a better sense. In his approach to the Zafarnama, Padam takes up several points. He thinks that the Sikh movement formed a larger background for the Zafarnama. The foundation and development of the Sikh movement was parallel to the foundation and expansion of the Mughal Empire. Padam attached a certain amount of significance to the terminology used in Sikh literature. The dispensation of Sikhism is called Raj. The Guru's seat is called Takht, throne, and the Guru himself is called the true king, Sacha Padshah. Later on, we come upon the words like Hukamnama for the Guru's letter and Sahibzada for the Guru's son. Paradoxically, the use of these terms indicates the primacy given by the Gurus to the spiritual life. Padam refers to the independent attitude of the Gurus. He cites the tradition in which Guru Angad rebuked Humayun. Guru Amar Das attracted the attention of Akbar, who offered a large grant of revenue-free land. Guru Arjan became a martyr at the hands of Jahangir. Guru Hargobind guarded two swords, one of Miri, temporal power, and the other of Piri, spiritual authority. He fought several battles against the officials of Shah Jahan. Aurangzeb became aggressive in his discriminatory measures, and Guru Tegh Bahadur stood up as the protector of the downtrodden. He exhorted people to frighten no one and to be afraid of none. Open resistance to the emperor's policy led to the martyrdom of Guru Tegh Bahadur on 11 November 1675. Padam points out that the hostility between the Mughal state and the Sikh Gurus and their followers was escalating. Aurangzeb had sent an order to the Faujdar of Sirhind before the creation of the Khalsa in 1699 that he should give a strict warning to Guru Gobind Singh against having a large gathering of his followers at Anandpur. He should follow the way of his predecessors and should not allow his followers to call him the true king, Sacha Padshah. Above all, Guru Gobind Singh should not do what was the prerogative of the rulers alone. The source mentioned by Padam for this information is Muhammad Qasim Lahori, also known as Ibrat. Lahori says that orders were issued from the imperial court to Wazir Khan, Faujdar, commandant of Sirhind, that if Guru Gobind Singh lives like other recluses and his own ancestors and shuns and avoids unsuitable words such as his followers used by giving him the title of king, Badshah, as well as the imitating of the ways and practices of sovereigns such as showing one's face in the Jaroka and receiving the Sajda from the people, this would be better. But if he insists on actions that are against the regulations and does not shun them or act on this reprimand, then Wazir Khan should assert himself to the utmost to devastate the place under his control and expel him from his territories. On the authority of the Vichitra Natak, generally believed to be the autobiography of Guru Gobind Singh, Padam mentions that Aurangzeb sent one special officer, Ahdi, with some force to the Punjab. He was followed by 4 other Ahdis. This was a reflection of Aurangzeb's anxiety about the political developments in the Punjab hills. Guru Gobind Singh, however, was indifferent to royal orders. After the institution of the Khalsa, Aurangzeb strengthened the administrative arrangements in the Punjab to be able to deal with any political problem that might arise. It was the increasing anxiety of Aurangzeb about the situation in the Punjab hills that led to the long siege of Anandpur in 1705. Ultimately, Guru Gobind Singh was asked to leave Anandpur, and Guru Gobind Singh agreed to do so because of Aurangzeb's oath on the Quran. The 4 couplets mentioned earlier were addressed in this situation by Aurangzeb to Guru Gobind Singh. These couplets read as follows: Che tashrif dar kasba kangad kunad, wazapas mulaqat baham shavad, na zarra dali rae khatra turast, hama qawme barar hukme marast, bayata sukhun khud zubani kunem, baruwe shuma meherbani kunem, yake asf sa'i se yak hazar, bayata bagiri These 4 couplets make it clear that Guru Gobind Singh was to go to the town of Kangar, where a personal meeting with the emperor was to take place. It is emphasized that there was no risk because the community of Baraz was obedient to the emperor. Guru Gobind Singh should come for personal meeting and receive the emperor's kindness. He would be given the rank of 1000. On the last point, Padam says that this does not mean that Guru Gobind Singh wanted any rank. The most important point in this statement is that Guru Gobind Singh was asked to leave Anandpur forever and to establish his residence somewhere in the plains. Significantly, Guru Gobind Singh tells Aurangzeb at one stage that he would not come to join him at all. He would go to Prince Muhammad, who was prepared to accommodate him. It is important to note that when Guru Gobind Singh evacuated Anandpur, he was attacked by the combined forces of the Mughal Faujdars and the hill chiefs, who were subordinate to the emperor. In the battle fought at Chamkaur, the elder Sahibzadas became martyrs after a hard fight. Guru Gobind Singh himself fought and killed many of the enemy and then left the field unseen. He was helped by Nabi Khan and Ghani Khan to leave Chamkaur and reach Kangar. There he heard of the martyrdom of the younger Sahibzadas at Sirhind. Guru Gobind Singh thought of writing a letter to Aurangzeb, which came to be known as the Zafarnama or the Letter of Victory. Padam reproduces the orders of Aurangzeb to underline the fact that the Zafarnama had been received by him and he was willing to have a personal meeting with Guru Gobind Singh. Meanwhile, Guru Gobind Singh waited for Aurangzeb's response to the Zafarnama. He went to Talwandi Sabo, where he received the messengers sent by Aurangzeb. He prepared to go to Ahmednagar to meet the emperor. For this, there is the firm evidence of Guru Gobind Singh's Hukamnama dated 21 October 1706. He was passing through Rajasthan when he got the news at Bagaur that Aurangzeb had died on 20 February 1707. Padam states that Guru Gobind Singh went to Delhi. By then, Prince Wazam Bahadur Shah had defeated his brother Azam and sat on the throne in Agra. Guru Gobind Singh met the new emperor there. As he himself says, Guru Gobind Singh was well received and hoped to return to Anandpur soon. Bahadur Shah had to go to the south to fight his brother Kambaksh at Nanded. Guru Gobind Singh decided to stay behind. He was attacked by Jamshed Khan. Guru Gobind Singh passed away sometime later. In his introduction to the Zafarnama, Padam suggests that Guru Gobind Singh had learned Persian in his youth. He quotes Guru Gobind Singh's couplets to show his familiarity with the works of Firdausi and Sadi. There is a direct reference to Firdausi in the Zafarnama, and a couplet of Sadi appears in a modified form. It says, "When all other means fail, it is legitimate to take up the sword." Towards the end of the introduction, Padam states that the Zafarnama is a historical document and throws light on several historical aspects. At the same time, Guru Gobind Singh mentions some religious aspects of the situation. First of all, he refers to the basic difference between him and the emperor, whereas Guru Gobind Singh had complete trust in God, Aurangzeb was proud of his armies and wealth. Padam quotes two couplets in which it is stated that Aurangzeb had his eyes on the army and gold. Guru Gobind Singh had his eyes on God. Aurangzeb was proud of the territory and wealth he possessed, and Guru Gobind Singh had his refuge in God. Padam goes on to say that Guru Gobind Singh mentioned all the shortcomings of Aurangzeb. At that point of time, no one had the courage to criticize the Mughal emperor. Nevertheless, Guru Gobind Singh fearlessly pointed out that Aurangzeb was devoid of honesty and true faith, though he was the master of a great empire. Padam quotes the couplet in which it is said that Aurangzeb was far away from faith, though he was the ruler of the world. Guru Gobind Singh tells Aurangzeb that he should not use the sword because he too is accountable to a superior power. He reminded the emperor that Islam did not support worship of idols, but Aurangzeb had sided with the hill Rajas who were idol worshippers, fighting against an idol breaker, Guru Gobind Singh. For the third point, Padam mentions that Guru Gobind Singh had a firm faith in the ultimate victory of goodness. Mughal soldiers had ruined Anandpur. A day would come when they would have to pay for it. Padam quotes the couplet which states that it did not matter if his 4 sons had been killed. Countless cobras, that is the Singhs, were still alive. For the fourth point, Padam quotes the well-known couplet which says that it is legitimate to take up arms when all other means had failed. For the fifth point, Guru Gobind Singh tells Aurangzeb that only he is truly manly whose actions accord with his words. Guru Gobind Singh further tells Aurangzeb that his officials were not well intentioned. They misguided the emperor. They should also be present at the meeting with Aurangzeb. For the eighth point, Padam says that only 46 were present in the Battle of Chamkaur, and none of them left the field, though they were attacked by thousands of the enemy. Padam thinks that the description of this battle in the Zafarnama was very good from the literary viewpoint. Padam's introduction to the Zafarnama ends with the couplet which states that no enemy can harm even the hair of the person whom God befriends. It may be added that Padam makes use of the most reliable evidence in support of the most crucial circumstances he refers to. For example, he uses some of the orders of Aurangzeb and 2 of the Hukamnamas of Guru Gobind Singh. In fact, Padam was so conscious of the importance of the royal orders that he reproduced them in the introduction. It may be added that Padam indicates the important sources used by him for the introduction. Janam Sakhi Pai Bala, War Ramkali by Satta and Balwand, the Shloks of Guru Tegh Bahadur, an order of Aurangzeb issued in 1693, Muhammad Qasim Lahori Ibratnama, the Bachitra Natak, Aurangzeb's order of 1700, the Bansavali Nama, Masrul Umra, Krishna Avatar, Chandi Charitra, and the Hakam-e Alamgiri. Recently, I have seen a book entitled Professor Pyara Singh Padam Simrati Granth. It contains a large number of articles on Padam and a still larger number on his writings. I noticed that though a few contributors talk of works which are historical, there is no historian among the contributors. It gives the impression that the field of history was not very important to Padam. This is rather misleading. Padam has written a considerable volume of literature that is historical. On the whole, Padam's understanding of the text of the Zafarnama, its background and context, and its historical and ideological significance make him a sound interpreter of the Zafarnama. A few scholars have written on the Zafarnama after Padam. Christopher Shackle, for example, has some new things to say. Louis E. Fenwick has written a whole monograph on the Zafarnama. Nevertheless, Padam's interpretation of the Zafarnama has not become dispensable. My recent study of Guru Gobind Singh impels me to say that Pyara Singh Padam is still in competition. Once again, I thank the Vice Chancellor for giving me the opportunity to share my views with other scholars. I am thankful also to the organizers who have done their best to make this occasion memorable. Thank you very much.